Now, the reason I brought this up because Job was Saddam Hussein in Bible prophecy. That means two invasion was. This was after two invasion. But there was another invasion which became the trigger part to this prophecy of Job before the second invasion. However, I got here in my chart the world's twin tower trade center building. And I got here the Ark of the Covenant. I got here the space shuttle as it coming down from the sky. In Ezekiel chapter 1, as God had took and became, the wheels became the focus point of the space shuttle, it also had its significance because in Ezekiel chapter 9, before he get to the space shuttle, when in Ezekiel chapter 10, he always bring back his witness, who was the cherubim, one cherubim on this end of the Ark of the Covenant spoken of in Exodus 25, 8-22, and one was here. But the voice of Jesus always came from the middle of the cherubim. These were the sacrifice, daily sacrifice, because of the law of Moses. But when President Bush and of the United States went over there, they tried to replace this with the law of democracy. This is the reason God spoke of the cherubim before he blew up the space shuttle, because the space shuttle, the cherubim was an attachment onto the mercy seat, which was placed on the Ark of the Covenant. And in the Ark of the Covenant was the law and the testimony of God that he had placed in there for all Israel to honor that law. But it was being replaced, as I read Job, with the law of democracy, making them curse God to his face. And this is why God sent me back here as a witness, living by the Spirit of Moses. Now, Ezekiel chapter 9, I'm going to start here first. He cried also in my ear with a loud voice, saying, cause them that have charge over the city to draw near, even every man with his destroying weapon in his hand. And behold, 6 men came from the way of the high gate, which lies towards the north, and every man a slaughtering weapon in his hand. And one man among them was clothed with linen, with a writer's inkhorn by his side, and went in, and stood beside the brazen altar. And the glory of the God of Israel was gone up from the cherubim whereupon he was to the threshold of the house, and he called to the man clothed with linen, which had the writer's inkhorn by his side. Okay, stop right there. That's Ezekiel chapter 1, when he was calling them every man in his destroying weapon who had been made war on the earth. It says right there, he had went up from between the cherubim. So I'm going to go back to Exodus of the Holy Bible and show you where this is to get you familiar with what God was talking about right there. And then I will continue this on Ezekiel. This is why God, there's no other doctrine like this here, because God self-checks his word, his prophecy, through other scriptures of the Bible. He went up from the cherubim. So let's go to Exodus chapter 25, verse 8. He said, and let them make me a sanctuary, that I may dwell among them, according to all that I show thee, after the pattern of the tabernacle, and the pattern of all the instruments thereof, even so shall you make it. And they shall make an ark of shintin wood, 2 cubits and a half shall be the length thereof, and a cubit and a half the breadth thereof, and a cubit and a half the length thereof. And thou shalt overlay it with pure gold, within and without shalt thou overlay it, and shall make upon it a crown of gold round and about. And thou shalt cast 4 rings of gold for it, and put them in the 4 corners thereof, and 2 rings shall be in the one side of it, and 2 rings in the other side of it. And thou shalt make stays of shinteen wood, and overlay them with gold. And thou shalt put the stays into the rings by the side of the ark, that the ark may be borne with them. The stays shall be in the rings of the ark, they shall not be taken from it, and thou shalt put into the ark the testimony which I shall give you. This is the key part. And thou shalt make a mercy seat of pure gold, 2 cubits and a half shall be the length thereof, and a cubit and a half the breadth thereof. And thou shalt make 2 cherubims of gold, of beaten work, that thou make them work, that shalt thou make them in the 2 ends of the mercy seat, and make 1 cherubim on the one end, and the other cherubim on the other end, even of the mercy seat shall ye make the cherubims on the 2 ends thereof, and the cherubim shall stretch forth their wings on high, covering the mercy seat with their wings, and their faces shall look one to another towards the mercy seat, shall the face of the cherubim be. And thou shalt put the mercy seat above upon the ark, upon the ark, and in the ark thou shalt put the testimony that I shall give thee, and there I will meet with thee, and I will commune with thee from above the mercy seat, from between the 2 cherubims which are upon the ark of the testimony of all things, which I will give thee in commandment unto the children of Israel. What this here was Jesus and his 2 witnesses, that God was having him these assembled before Moses was going to be called up and go up and be attached to God, and Elijah was going to be called and attached to God. They were symbolized by the cherubim. Jesus was the voice of God, which came from between these 2 witnesses. One of these cherubims, I said, was symbolizing myself. And when God got to speaking of this, began to speak of this spaceship, and he said he had gone up from between the 2 cherubim, that means this was after the crucifixion of Jesus, and Jesus had went up beside it, up through the threshold to his Father in heaven, was sitting at the Father's the right side, and the 2 cherubims had returned back, born as 2 witnesses here on earth, and Jesus was speaking through them, and Jesus was the voice of God carried on the works of his Father from above. Now, this is where it is. So what it does, the messenger, the ark of the covenant, the testimony that God put in this ark, the ark becomes the people, the 12 tribes of Israel. Itself, it was supposed to be put in their heart. This is what was happening. They were going to replace this law, take it out of the ark of the covenant, which is the people's now, and replace it with the law called the Marks, when Jesus had gone up to his Father in heaven. And this is what was bringing on this here part of Revelation. When President George W. Bush went there, he said he was going to try to democratize them, created a voting system, a democracy system, making the people's curse God to his faith, by removing the law that God gave to Moses, which put into the ark, which was the people's itself. They had marched through the earth, took charge over the cities, and everything. This is why God said, called every man with his destroying weapon. And this is where this goes. I'm going to go back to Ezekiel chapter 9 and begin at Ezekiel chapter 4. And the Lord said unto him, go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the forehead of the man that sighed and that cried for all that abomination that be done in the midst thereof. And to the others he said, in my hearing, go ye,